What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York, calling from the quarantine zone again. And this time we're here with Zsuzsi of The Almighty Hellfreaks. Thank you so much for being here today. It's great to talk with you today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you here. The first band that originated in Hungary that I get to speak to today. So I get to cross another country
Ah,
off
what an
the.
honor. Great.
Yeah, I get to cross another country off the list. I think I'm down to like 15 more countries in Europe now. So.
Pretty good, pretty
Yeah,
good.
but it's so awesome to have you here. I want to first of all congratulate you to signing with Napalm Records, a great team of people. They were one of the first labels to actually give this outlet a shot as well. So congratulations on that. And you have a
Thank you.
yep, and you have a new single out called "Old Tomorrows." Great single. Is this maybe a good representation of what a full length follow up to "God on the Run" is going to sound like? Is this a good representation of the direction you're going into?
Well, look, I think each of our albums changed a bit. And this All Tomorrows is the first song from the upcoming album, but you have to know that we are still working on the upcoming album. So um, I can't tell you if this song is really representing the full length, what will come up, but it's definitely a kind of direction that we are pushing now.
Yeah. Well, I've noticed that like there's a lot of different sounds when I listen to the Hell Freaks because I see like elements of, hard rock, I see elements of real heavy metal. I also see like a lot of punk rock and some hardcore incorporated in your sound. So it's fair to
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what we are, a mix of those things that we really love.
Well, I know it's a very cliche question to ask, but what is like your sources of inspiration? Were you taking inspiration from like hardcore bands or punk rock bands? How did like the sound of Hell Freaks sort of come to be?
Okay, so look, when I was a teenager, I started with old school hardcore music, and then I found the punk music, and then I found the rockabilly music, and then I found the psychobilly music. So there are just a lot of types of rock music that I discovered in a really early age, and I was never the kind of person who was really stuck to one genre. I always liked to mix the things. And later on, when I grew up and I started a band, that was pretty much what I wanted to do, to mix the things that I really love. But what is important to say that we are a band. So the other guys, some of them are really real metalheads, but then there is also someone who is like listening really all type of music on the world. Um, so this the whole picture is a big mixture, and I think that this is exactly what can make any kind of music unique, and that's why we are pushing the kind of mix so much, because we are really bored when we have to repeat ourselves, and we are really uninspired when we are like bounded in one genre. And that's why we just like to cook our soup with a lot of different ingredients.
Yeah, and you definitely succeed in doing that. Does the sound of what you want a song or an album to sound like though is do you ever go into songwriting with a preconceived idea of what you want it to sound like, or is there like a lot of experimentation and a lot of rolling the dice, as I like to say?
I would say a little bit of both. For example, All Tomorrows, the new single that we just released, we started to write that song back when we wrote the album God on the Run. And when we started to write this song, we started with the first part, with the shouting, with the screaming part. And we really liked the idea, but we said like, look, this is great, but this will not fit to God on the Run. This will be something new again. So we have to put this aside and take this out later on. And it wasn't really planned to do, I would say, a little bit more aggressive music. It just came, the instrumental part is always wrote by our bass player, and of course I am, as a singer, I am responsible for the melody and for the words that I'm saying. And when I heard the first ideas, the vibe of raised fist totally hit me. And
Yeah.
that's and that's how we started to work on the first part of the song, but we absolutely realized that this will not fit on God on the Run. So I would say that maybe we don't plan really in front what a concept of an album is, but when we start to work on an album, we definitely see what will fit to that album or not.
It's very interesting. It almost seems like you let the art develop on its own in a way. You don't like try to suffocate the art or like really try to dictate it too much. It sounds like your songwriting is very organic.
Yes, I mean, you have to see the history of this band. We started, oh my gosh, it's like 11 years ago. We started 11 years ago. And when this band started, it was a pure psychobilly band. It was something very different. And I mean, I really still really like psychobilly music and I like that scene. But we released two albums in that genre and then we split it up as a band because there were so many things that just did not work out. And one thing that did not work out was that I feel it's like someone is choking me because I can't, because I have to repeat myself, because I can't try new things, because I can't experiment with ideas, because every time when I had a new idea, I had to stop myself because it was like, no, we can't put this in a song because it's not psychobilly enough.
Yeah.
And I felt really, really bad because of that. And I felt really limited. And I really want to avoid this because if I stuck to that, I cannot develop, I cannot find anything new, and I also cannot find out anything new style wise, you know?
Yeah, and I also think it defeats the purpose because psychobilly music is always meant to say fuck the rules and, fuck authority and kind of like having its own little rebellious nature behind it. So if you had to kind of like always accommodate to the idea of psychobilly, I think it would have defeated the purpose of what it already is.
Yeah, yeah, I kind of agree with that, yes.
And I was curious too, having taking some inspiration from hardcore. I'm calling from New York. Are there any New York City hardcore bands that you're a fan of?
Oh my gosh. Uh, to be honest, we just covered a song which is very much New York City related. But at this moment, I'm just not allowed to reveal more.
Okay,
So
that's
yes,
that's fine.
New
But
York City hardcore is also something big here on the other side of the world in
really,
Hungary. Yeah,
really,
yeah,
like
yeah,
what, like Sick of It All fans and Agnostic Front
yeah,
fans and Cro-Mags?
yeah, 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 yeah.
Oh my God, have you ever seen any of them before? Like, have they ever come to Hungary?
Um, I've seen Sick of It All, but honestly, I don't know if it was in Hungary or if it was somewhere where we toured.
Oh, really? Did you hear about that infamous Madball show that just played in New York City in the park?
Yes, of
I
course.
was there.
Oh, you lucky you.
It was the most controversial show I've ever been to in my life, but I have no regrets on attending it. It was one of the most historical things. They're saying now, like a lot of hardcore veterans are saying, that that is the most historical hardcore show in history.
Well, I can't believe it. I mean, we just saw it, of course, on videos, but we were like, we really want to be there.
Yeah, it was Madball, Murphy's Law, and Blood Clot, John Joseph of Cro-Mag's new band. So, and it was
That had to be an awesome night, honestly. Like,
it
especially after all what happens. Ah,
yeah, it was
I'm
insane.
jealous.
People were climbing trees to see it. People were pulling over on the cars. There were even cops who were dancing along to the music. It was great.
Hey, I would climb a tree too for that. Of course I would.
Yeah, don't fall. Those parks and the trees are not very stable, but or the trees in the parks. But in terms of like your lyrical concept, because I've always thought that with the styles that you take inspiration from, lyrics are just as important as the music itself. Do you sometimes have a lyrical idea in mind that could influence the music as well, or do you always prefer to have music before you start writing lyrics?
Well, these are, I would say, two parallel things. because on one side there is our bass player who is working on the instrumental part. um, I'm not saying that we are always getting a final result from him. It's much more like that he is like the main brainstormer, and then we're putting together the puzzles. That's on one side. And at that point, I'm always thinking about vocal melodies, not the words, about the melodies. And the melody has to fit, of course, to the instrumental part. But then on the other side, I'm pretty old school when it comes to lyrics, because I still have my little like paper notebook where I'll write my lyrics. And how it works is like, actually, whenever I walk on the street and I just have a random idea, I write down two, 3 words, and I have like a lot of little pieces of ideas. And then when I have the song, and then when I have the melody, that's the point when I start to pick like which idea could fit to that one.
Hmm. And do you like to leave your lyrics open to interpretation, or do you try to maybe convey a certain message for the listeners to sort of understand things
No,
through?
no, no. I'm absolutely like the type that I'm happy if everyone finds his own sense in the words. So there is a lot of space for interpretation, I think.
Hmm.
Um, but on the other side, or at least in the last years, every time when we released a new single or a video, uh, put it quite directly in words what the song really is about.
Yeah, I've always said like music videos, they're amazing. Like I love the creativity of music videos, but I almost feel that like when you make a music video for a song, it's so much more or less open to interpretation after that.
But yeah, can be.
Yeah. But it's cool because I also think that with hardcore and psychobilly and rockabilly and all the things that you're into, I think the key message is for people to think for themselves as well. So I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. I do wonder a lot what like certain lyrics and certain songs mean.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like, when I when I started with music, I had a pretty rough time as a teenager, and I was like a pretty angry teenager. But I had my reasons to be angry, and that's when I found to all these type of rock music, and that's when I found to my own music, and that's when I started to write. So when I write, it kind of always comes from some negative feelings or feelings of being handled unfair in a way, but I always try to make something positive out of it. But when I get I don't know, for example, when I get a happy melody from my band, I'm like, I'm going crazy. Like I feel like I can't do with it anything. It just doesn't feel like I can handle it. I just like, it's really hard for me. So actually, there is on God on the Run. There is like one song that is a, at least a little bit a happy song, which is called Adrenalized, and this really just came out by accident. But any other time when I get a happy song, I'm like, I'm out. Do it
Okay.
with someone else. I'm out.
Okay, so you're probably gonna really hate how I describe Hellfreaks music then, because I'm a fan. Like I do like the music a lot, but like I've always said, it's the happiest angry music I've ever heard.
Look, I mean, I know I don't hate that description, because as I said, I try to do something positive out of what I feel.
Definitely.
It's just that I have to feel some darkness in the music, and I find it in this type of music, and then I start to build on it my little castle.
And you led me perfectly. I love asking artists because I've interviewed artists of many different styles of aggressive music, whether it's black metal or death metal or hardcore or even like I've interviewed a couple of bands that are just like straight, blues rock, but they've always told
Yeah.
me that they usually write a lot of times they write from a dark place. Do you almost feel though like I don't know if this is the right way to describe it, but if you rely on a lot of negativity to create stuff, does that almost make the songwriting a little bit painful or a little bit deteriorating in a way?
No, no, it's not. It's never painful. It's I really like to work on songs. I mean, you know, um, I've heard it like a million times when artists are saying that writing music is such a healing process. Honestly, I'm so sick of hearing that stupid sentence.
Really?
Yeah, I'm absolutely sick of it because I mean, writing, of course, it's kind of fun, but what is really the good part of it? It's when it's ready and you hear it and you're satisfied with it because then or at least then I know that I did something useful with my time and my life, and I put something on the table that has value in my eyes. Um, but actually, you are a little bit right because when I'm like super happy and everything is fine in my life and everything is good, I'm not able to write lyrics. So that's kind of problem.
Well, I grew up as an emo kid, so I was always into My Chemical Romance and Paramore and all of those bands.
Oh, yay.
Yeah, I'm only 27. I was born in '93, so that's my generation's rock. But like, a lot of people say that their music is sad, but I listen to a lot of that music and it's just so uplifting all the time, despite the lyrics being dark. So I've always loved that sort of dark lyrics but happy melody, or vice versa in a way,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. I'm totally on the same side of the table. I feel the same.
Do you find it harder though? Because you mentioned that like Old Tomorrows, for example, was technically an older song from God Is on the Run before being released now. Do you find it maybe like the longer you're working on a song, the harder it is to kind of maintain the energy that originally inspired you to write?
No, because even when we started I mean, it was really now like 2, 3 years ago when we started to work on All Tomorrows. Well, we just worked on it a little bit, and then we realized that we have to work on it later on, not right now. And then when we put it out again to work on it, then it were just like for me, like my working process was just a few days, and then I'm done. And when it's done. I don't when I decide that I'm ready with it, then I'm ready with it, and I'm not taking it out again and again and again. I think if I would do that, then this would be a total disaster. But I'm really good in saying that I'm finished with something and I'm going on with the next one.
Yeah, and I give you a lot of credit because knowing when a piece of art of any type, whether it's music or painting or anything, knowing when something is done is usually the hardest part.
Yeah.
And,
That's true. That's true. But I'm like, I know that there is just a point when I start to work on it longer, then I just then I'm just causing damage on it and not doing it any better.
do you prefer to write or come up with ideas for the music when you're in the company of your bandmates, or isolation, it being such a great fuel for creativity? Do you prefer to write lyrics or even music when you're just alone and there's nothing in between you?
Definitely, definitely. I'm only able to write lyrics and even to think about the melody when I'm alone. I need to be alone. Even uh, I even can't stand when my husband is in the same room. I have to send him out. Like I can't do that. I have to do this alone.
Wow.
But I really enjoy it to record stuff in company. That's
Yeah.
really good.
Because I've had this discussion with a couple of friends of mine, because our favorite things to do is smoke pot, drink beer, and discuss just the most nerdiest things about art. But like, we were having a discussion, isolation is always great. Most artists I've asked this question to say they prefer to write alone, but like, does that almost defeat the purpose of what a band is mainly supposed to be? Does that almost get rid of the collaborative effort that makes a band a band? But I guess
Really,
not.
I absolutely don't think that
Yeah, I
because I
don't
think
so
that
either.
here, I mean, each and every band member is responsible for something. Of course, it's not totally equal because, as I said, our bass player is doing like the main part of the whole instrumental thing, but it doesn't mean that there is not a role for everyone there, and only the combination of these roles make out something. So I don't think that it's taking out anything, that there are parts that we work out separately.
Hmm. And because in the definition I've always said of a musical band, of a band of any type, is really a group of people with different artistic backgrounds coming together to create one art form, which I think
Yeah,
is the
yeah.
beauty of a band. So I think in the end, a band always revolves around people with different ideas coming together to make one.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And it's a lot about like if a band is good or not, it's never on one person's shoulder. It's about the combination.
Yeah, I love reading about bands where every member has like a completely different inspiration. Like there's one band where like one person likes classic rock, the other person likes death metal, and the other person listens to like uh, Kanye West. So
I think if we would put on the table all the bands that we like, you would see something from every genre.
well, that's great, and that's always
We're
good.
also also quite different,
Yeah,
but it works out pretty well, I would say.
I think it works out better than when everybody listens to the same thing and comes together because then it just sounds like it's like that's when I asked, let me guess what your favorite band is. The band you sound exactly like.
Yeah, yeah. I totally agree with that. I
Yeah,
totally agree, and that's pretty much the same point when I'm telling you that how much I don't like it when a band is like pressed in one genre because then they are just running around in their own circle.
yeah. Or the best is when they make up their own genre and then they talk about it like it's so real.
Yeah, it's a hard topic. Actually, I also like. I mean, I really don't like the fact that you have to put yourself somehow in the genre. But on the other side, I also understand that if you want to find like new people and you can't describe yourself, they might not give you a chance, or it's really hard to
Yeah.
give them a chance.
Well, what I love about Hell Freaks is that I could think of I have multiple peers in the scene who listen to many different types of stuff, and I could think of multiple scenes I could introduce your band to. So,
Yeah,
with,
yeah,
without having to describe who you are, I just tell them listen to Hell Freaks.
yeah. I mean, I'm super happy about this,
Yeah.
and I also agree with that. But that wasn't something planned, you know.
Well, I don't think I think if you try to plan it, it just kind of ruins it to begin with. Like when everybody says we want to be original, we want to do something that's never been done before. I'm like, yeah, I've heard that 1,000 times before.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yep. And the final question I wanted to ask you is, as I said at the beginning of this interview, the first Hungarian band I got had the privilege of interviewing, and I've interviewed bands from all of your neighbors pretty much. I was just curious. I mean, did the band originate in Budapest, or are you from the
Yeah.
outskirts? Okay, so is there?
Well, depends on, wait, four members.
Yep.
Two of us are originally from Budapest, and the other two are from outer rims.
Okay.
But we all live since, I don't know, 15 years. We all live here in the same town.
Okay. And is there kind of like an active music scene in the city of Budapest? I've seen pictures, and I'm an art history major, so like I've learned so much about the artistic history of Budapest and everything like that. Is there kind of like an active music scene that Hell Freaks is sort of associated with?
Well, look, there are like, compared to how big the country is and compared to how big the city is, we have a lot of great musicians and bands. Also, a lot of great hardcore bands and metal bands and rock bands and stuff like that. But what we don't have is scenes. We don't really have like specified scenes. So, for example, people who are going to a metal show, they will also go to a hard rock show or to a hardcore show. So there is not. It's not like, for example, what I really know very well is Germany. They have their specified scenes. They have their specified clubs and festivals. We don't have anything like that. We have like it's one big rock festival, and on that rock festival you can see like from punk to hard rock to metal to folk to any type of rock music. So um, there is no big scene life. That it's kind of good and kind of bad, depends on which day you ask me.
I think it's good because I mean everybody. Whenever I interview a band from Sweden, for example, because I've interviewed over 100 bands from Sweden now, a lot of people assume, oh, do they sound like At the Gates? Or do they sound like In Flames? Or every time I interview a band from Norway, I was like, oh, are they black metal? Or if I interview a band from Finland, oh, are they
Yeah,
folk metal? So I think
yeah,
it's actually a blessing that that your scene or whatever you call it, your region is not associated with a genre. In New York, if you're a remotely heavy band from New York, a lot of people are just going to assume that you're a hardcore band. So
Yeah,
I think it works out for the best.
yeah, yeah. On one side, yes, what you said, that's right. But on the other side, I know that if we would have scenes, we would have even more bands.
Mm.
Because I know how it is. For example, when I started to go to these old school hardcore shows here in Hungary, I was so inspired. I was so inspired because I saw these bands. I loved the attitude, I loved the atmosphere, and I just felt like I really want to be part of this way of thinking of these people. I want to be part of this family, and it's very inspiring. And I know if we would have these kind of, I'm not saying one scene, if we would have more, then we would have, maybe would have even more bands.
Yeah, definitely. A high tide raises all ships. So.
Yeah.
Before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time today and for such a very, very interesting and in depth discussion. Is there just anything else with Hell Freaks that you would like to promote in terms of when we could be expecting the new album? And is there a chance you could bring Hell Freaks to the States one day?
It's on our bucket list to come back to the States. We made it once in 2015, and it's time to come back. So it is really important for us, and we are really working hard on it. So I hope that in the future we will have some good news in that case. And well, what else I can say? Our new album is coming out in 2020, that's for sure. And the other thing, what will happen for sure, is a very cool cover song and video that will come out, I hope, soon.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, everybody. We are here with the Hell Freaks. This is Alex from Heavy New York, and we will see you next time. That was
Thank you
perfect.